Alright, welcome back. Today we're going to do a video on how to clean your Zealous trucks. It isn't very hard, but I'm going to lay out what I use to kind of get the gunk off, and then make sure that they're good to go again. This isn't going to be replacing like bushings or pivot cups, but you probably should know if you need to do that. So if while you're taking your trucks apart, you notice that there's anything like scratched up or your bushing seems like squashed, maybe now's the time to go buy some bushings. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna change the camera angle and show you what you should use. So you're gonna want to have some kind of degreaser. ISO's kind of what I always have around. Q-tips will be nice. If you can also use like wood, like toothpicks. These will be just to kind of get into the nooks and crannies of your bushing seat on the front and the back side of your hanger. Paper towel is kind of just easy for, you know, get your finger covering this, getting stuff off. And then silicone grease will be for kind of relubing the contact points on the pivot and the bushing seat. All right, so I'm gonna do this with the trucks off of my board, but you could do this whole cleaning process without taking the base plates off of your skateboard. So you start by taking, honestly, I'll take the wheels off first because it's annoying to deal with the extra bulk. And I typically run my Zealous with a narrow tracking width in the front and a wider rear, just to kind of get a little bit of that triangle of stability. I guess it's not a triangle, it's like a quadrilateral of some type. But wider rear for a little bit more stability, and I'm okay if the back slips out first. I'd rather have that than a bunch of understeer. Okay. So, trucks are apart. I'll start by taking the kingpin nut off. The front is way, way, way easier than the back, and actually this one I must have cleaned recently because it's actually looking nice and clean. There is a little bit I can do. So this is essentially just moving on to like the finishing touches stage. Probably take the hanger off. Make sure, so if your pivot has some gunk on it, just go through with that ISO, a Q-tip. And the main reason I'm just going through with ISO is because I don't want to be scrubbing on this too much, because if there's a nick in your pivot, that means every time you turn, you're tearing up your pivot cup, and that's an expensive way to turn. So, went through, covered the paper towel as well, and a little bit of ISO. Pivot is looking nice. And the main thing you want to make sure is you're not getting any grittiness. So maybe give it a pass once it's clean with your fingers, just to make sure there's no sand or anything. And, you know, once you clean this hanger, the other half of this equation is the pivot tube. Make sure you clean that out. Sometimes, yeah, this one's nice, and I lubed it up with silicone grease last time, so it isn't an absolute pain for me to get out. Now I'm gonna just kind of go through, clean the inside, get any excess lubricant that might be in here from last time. Nice. And then just a final touch. And the main goal with this is to actually get the particulate material out. Like if you have a keyboard duster or something, to get the actual dust out once you've gone and kind of loosened it up with the rubbing alcohol, that would be ideal. I'm using my fingernail to kind of get in against the lip there. But at this point, this is pretty clean. I'll clean the outside of the insert plug bushing. Check the contact point for your bushing, especially in the front. You know that the top of that bushing seat rubs a lot, so it can be just nice to make sure that you're getting any of that gunk off, because since the bushing seat is as tight as it is, there's a lot more friction on the side of your bushings than you'll see with almost any other truck. So just good to make sure on both the roadside and the board side bushing that you're going through and just cleaning those contact points before you put them back together. It's not as big of a deal to clean the base plate contact point, but if there's any dust on the base plate contact point for the bushing, definitely, don't ignore that. Make sure you go ahead and actually fix that. As for your reassembly, let's take a look. You got bare base plate, no nothing on it. First pivot, actually, well, you'd start with the pivot cup, pivot tube. Let me give it a internal clean. All right, clean pivot tube. Goes in nice. Your board side bushing, the insert for the front, pivot goes in, and then you can press down to get to the right depth to get that insert bushing in, like so. Put your roadside back on, and you should be ready to go. So that's just reassembly. But beyond reassembly, I recommend going through and lubricating. So right now, technically, we're running a dry system. It's going to be a little bit squeaky. Some people don't care. I just prefer not to be the guy that's, walking down the hallway with the clown shoes on. So what we are going to do to prevent that, look at that when there's no lubrication, it can be stuck on the pivot. So I'll come through with a new Q-tip and just this much silicone grease. Let's just double check that much. And I'll just give it a little light application, just that much. And around the pivot. You don't really need to get the floor of the pivot because this is a pivot tube. But just kind of, you don't want to leave a bunch of residue, so it's just coated. And then just a test fit, nice and not squeaky, which is what we're looking for. Keep that pivot off of the ground. And then just a little bit on this insert. A little bit on the face of the bushing and on the walls. So especially on this is the boards or the roadside bushing in the top or in the front truck. So the one that gets the most contact and the most turning. And then the last one, this blue one, or this may be different for you depending on what bushings you have, the board side barrel. We've gone ahead and done that. I'm not gonna lube the base plate, mostly because I don't find it to do too much. The hanger points are more what I'm concerned about. So reassembly, we're all lubricated up. Pivot is in the base plate. Hanger is facing the correct way up. We're in, we're down. Make sure if you have any particles down there that you get out of there before you go in for final spec. And then here is when you'll go ahead and give your bushing seat in the front just another little lubrication before you go all the way in and then reassemble. I typically reassemble my trucks to finger tight spec and then just a little nudge beyond finger tight in the front. So that will be nice for me. I'm gonna rinse and repeat with the rear truck. Nothing is specifically different outside of the geometry of the hanger, but same exact thing. I'll probably do a time lapse for this so that you guys don't have to wait through it, but I'll get all the dirt off, pivot cup, bushing seat, underside of the bushing seat, re-lube everything back up, reassemble, and then you'll be good to go. Alright, y'all. Thanks for watching this video on how you can make your Zealous trucks feel like they're brand new again. Doesn't take that much time. Super, super worth it. And if you are planning on making any angle adjustments to try and tune for performance, definitely go ahead and clean first. If you don't clean first, I don't believe that you're actually tuning for the actual fuel of the trucks. And you never know. You may end up going way too far, and then you'll eventually clean your trucks, and then they'll feel bad. So, might as well just clean them now. You had 15 minutes to watch this video. I bet you got 15 more minutes to go clean your trucks.